Welcome to the Radical Responsibility Revolution podcast. This is where we are transforming lives, inspiring you to reclaim your health, your wealth, and the power of your mind. Here we share actionable insights, inviting you to turn inwards and design your life of purpose and abundance. Welcome back to another episode of Radical Responsibility Revolution. And I'm so glad you're here today because we're diving into something that has radically transformed my life and that of so many others. And I don't say that lightly. And it's actually something really simple that you'd be surprised. I actually have this piece of art in my living room that says she has the soul of a gypsy, the heart of a hippie, and the spirit of a mermaid. And if that doesn't sum up who I am, I don't know what does. But here's what most people don't know about me. Beneath all that whimsy and wildness is a woman who learned, often the hard way, to be radically responsible for what I say. And here is what we're going to talk about because honest to goodness, ever since Rhonda Byrne came out with The Secret, Law of Attraction, and you can have whatever you want, you just have to declare it. Oh my goodness gracious. There's a little bit more involved in that. Here's what I will say though. The universe is always listening. Always, always, always. And if you think of it like this, everything you say is a prayer. What are you praying for? I'm so broke. I don't have enough. This isn't working for me. All of those kind of conversations. So today, I want to talk to you about what it really means to place an order with the universe, right? I mean, that's what we're doing anyways. We're creating our world every day with our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions. That's it. But how do you make sure that you don't end up with a Long Island iced tea when you asked for a lemonade? Trust me when I say, I've had a few fair share of Long Island iced teas in my day. So let's get started. Let's talk about language. Now, it may seem like a boring topic to you, but here's what I'm going to say is if you listen to this and you listen to the whole podcast, you're going to walk away with a new understanding of what you've been doing with your language and how you're creating the experience sometimes you say you don't want. We're going to talk about your language, my language, the language of wealth. All of these things comes down to the language not only that comes out of your mouth, but in your head, because that's a language as well. So I want to rewind just a little bit. And I always love talking about when I was in my 20s because it feels like it's 100 years ago now. It's only been 50. Was it when I was in my late 20s? I was working at a bar called the Boar's Head. And anyone who's ever worked behind a bar knows clarity is everything. You can't mess around with people's drink orders, especially today in today's world society. I recently went to my nephew's wedding and was ordering mocktails. And I'm probably sure I would have known if there was alcohol in it, but you don't want to mess somebody's drink order up right now. If they order a lemonade and you hand them a Long Island iced tea, because those Long Island iced teas can be very tasty and they can get you really drunk. But that's not the point of this conversation. When you're getting that drink tossed right back at you when you're in a bar and you're a bartender, you want to make sure that you really begin to listen and you begin to get specific. And that's how I started thinking about the universe. It's the biggest, most magical bartender in the world. That's really, think of it like that. You're putting in orders every day with your thoughts and your feelings and your actions, and it's not responding to what you hope you said or what you think you meant to say. Therein lies the problem. Is we need to begin to become aware and look at what are we really saying? What are we really feeling? What are we really doing? The universe is just like a really good magical bartender. It's responding to your exact words, your exact energy, and your exact frequency. And if you're anything like I used to be, your order might sound more like, I don't know, are these any things you might have said? I can't afford that. I haven't said this one, but I know many, many people do. Money doesn't grow on trees. As a matter of fact, I used to have this tree in my office when I was in Wichita Falls years ago. And I put dollar bills on it because money does grow on trees. That's how plentiful it is. And yet, your order that you're putting into the universe might sound that way. Money doesn't grow on trees. Who am I to even ask for more? Have you found yourself even thinking these kind of thoughts? That, my love, is not an order for abundance. That's the deal. We have to begin to be affirmative in what it is that we say, in what it is we think, and more importantly, what it is that we do. Those kind of statements are orders for, I don't know, struggle, scarcity, for just enough to get by. And the universe, being the really good server bartender that it is, will deliver exactly that. Exactly. It delivers exactly what your frequency is, what your feelings are, what your unconscious thoughts are. That's what it's delivering to you. So why do these words matter more than you ever imagined? This isn't woo woo. I want to get this very, very clear. This isn't just metaphysics, science. I love science because science is now proving everything that I've been saying for decades that people thought were woo woo. Science backs this up. Every time you say something like, I'm broke, you're carving a deeper neural groove in your brain that reinforces this limitation. The more you say, so I know that people have talked about for years affirmations. Affirmations are great. I personally am not a big proponent of them from the point of view is that sometimes your brain thinks you're lying to you. So I'm abundant, I'm prosperous, when the reality is you have no money in your bank account. So your brain goes, you're lying. I'm not here to say do affirmations. I am here to say, though, you are doing affirmations. When you say things like, I'm broke, I had a gardener person working in my backyard not too long ago, and he said, I was paying him a lot of money too, so I thought that was an interesting statement. He says, I've been broke all my life. And I said, you got to stop saying that. That is an affirmation right there. I've been broke all my life. And so he says, well, what should I say instead? Rather than give him an affirmation, oh, life is wonderful, everything's prosperous, everything's great. I said, because what happens is your brain knows when you're lying to it. So, what I'm going to suggest is that you begin to find that bridge to what it is that you're saying now. I'm broke, or I've been broke all my life, to uh, an abundance affirmation is I'm getting on the prosperity train, right? You can get behind, I'm getting on the train. I'm willing to see my own prosperity. I'm open to ideas that will show me my prosperity. You see the bridge? It's different than stating an affirmation. I'm an abundance advocate. So the fact is that your body hears it too. And when your body hears a lie and your brain hears a lie, your nervous system contracts, your muscles tense. And what happens to your ability to receive? Guess what? It gets blocked. It's gone. It's blocked. You put a crimp in the hose. So, like the store sign just flipped to close, that's what's happening to your overall energy and your body. I write in the book back in the day, I used to manifest money like magic. I could pull out a big check like nobody's business. And I had a money story. I had a money story that it wasn't okay to hold on to it. And so just as quickly, I'd be counting quarters for gas money, which is so silly. But your money story is your money story. It could be similar, it could be completely different. What is important is, and that's why I share in the book so many times, talking about your money story. You have to get to the root of your money story and unblock the resistance and the lack and let the flow begin to happen. And the only way to do that, to begin down this path, is really start paying attention to what you're saying. What are you saying to yourself? The entire time that I was depositing the checks of I'm not enough, or I'll never make any more, or I need to get rid of this, I was saying to myself, you better enjoy it while it lasts. Those were some of the conversations that I was having with me. And you won't believe how fast this money will disappear. I was having those conversations with myself. I may not have been saying them out loud, but they were having a committee conversation in my head. And guess what? The money did. It would come in, it would go out. It would come in, it would go out. We all have a money thermostat, but being radically responsible is taking responsibility for what it is you're thinking, what it is you're saying, and what it is you're doing. And so, in order to actually begin down that path, you have to become aware. I have a great um, tool. I call it a toy because implies the fact that you're going to work, called the Divine Wealth Activator. So, if you want to get a download of that, put in the URL divinewealthactivator.com and it will take you there. And it's one of the tools, the toys that I've used with my very high end clients. And the fact is it is powerful beyond measure. And it will begin to get you into not about with language, but about projecting when you're going to allow money to come into your life. But coming to this idea that when you are speaking, you are placing an order with the universe. You're placing an exact order. So be aware of what you're saying in that prayer, in that order that you're giving to this magical bartender called the universe. And then when you begin to look at this, I want to share with you just a little story about my turning point when I was diagnosed with cancer. It didn't come in a boardroom and it didn't come in a bar. It came in a hospital gown. I was sitting with my oncologist hearing numbers that made my mortgage deals look like a Starbucks receipt. It was just medical care in the United States of America, people. I can't even tell you. It's it's really ridiculously expensive, especially if you don't have insurance, which I did not. And I felt this old script start to come up and scream really loudly, I can't afford this. Literally, when they told me I needed a PET scan, I said, well, how much do those cost? They wouldn't even give me a number. That was how ludicrous that question was. They wouldn't even give me a number because they looked at me and said, you can't afford it. And they look at everybody else that way as well because it's so expensive. I'll tell you what, something in me stopped in that moment when I asked about that PET scan and I couldn't get an answer about how much it costs. Instead of spiraling, it stopped me in my tracks. And I began to become curious about what creative solutions are available to me. Now, when you ask that question, you have to be able to listen for the answer because your creative solutions that you have right here are only limited to what you've learned and experienced in your life. So I just allowed it to percolate. What creative solutions are available to me? That one shift changed everything because I was open to solutions. And it wasn't just about the money because I can't remember, but that PET scan I think was in the hundreds of thousands of dollars just for one little scan. And it wasn't about the money. It was about the power that I got in that moment, asking myself, what other creative solutions are available? I stopped placing orders for fear and started placing orders for possibility. And that is a huge shift, my friends, to come to a place where you begin to flip the script and then identify what it is you're asking for, because that's what words and thoughts are, is a is an order to this magical bartender called the universe. So I started paying attention, really paying attention to the things that I was saying and thinking. And whoa, let me tell you, it was humbling. My conversations were basically a master class in scarcity on different levels than one might think. Just because I was on food stamps, that's not where the scarcity was coming from, not the circumstances that I was in. It was my ideas about my circumstances and my ideas prior to those devastating or perceived devastating circumstances. And instead of thinking or saying words like, my rates are probably too high, it must be nice to afford that, I hope this lasts, right? I know you all have said similar things, especially that must be nice to afford that. I'm getting ready to go to Playa for my birthday, and I shared with a friend I have that lives here. She's from Germany and she's only here for a short time. And I told her how much the villa cost that I was going to for my birthday. And, everything is relative. And yet I can see that I might have said something like this in my past. She says, "What? Did you win the lottery?" In other words, in her perception, that was way too much money to spend on, well, anything probably. But here's the thing, is that when you say statements like this, it must be nice to afford that, or wow, you must have won the lottery, or I hope this lasts, and I couldn't possibly raise my rates. Every single one of those types of statements. So you can make a list, and I recommend that you buy the book, go to Amazon, join one of my courses, because the fact is that every single one of those type of statements is an order. It's an order to the universe. It's a declaration that is being followed by this magical bartender. And then you look around at your life and you say, "Oh, I didn't order that." The fact is that you did. And I've often said, if you want to know what you're thinking and feeling, look around your life. Just observe what's happening. And so I created in the book what I now call the prosperity phrase flip challenge. I'll do a course on it at some point. I've just finished this Ignite Your Inner Billionaire course, which has rave reviews. And if you're interested in that, I recommend that you join our tribe, which is www.thequeenofmagic.com/join. Because if you join the tribe, then you'll be notified of everything. Unfortunately, social media has all these weird algorithms that prevent you from seeing all of this all of the time. But I created this prosperity phrase flip challenge. Super, super simple. Super, super simple. Super, super powerful. Literally, sometimes the simplest things are the most powerful. And that's why they get overlooked. It's because people believe that if something's simple, that it doesn't have power. Wrong, wrong, wrong. So here's what you do. Carry a little notebook. Or hey, your phone works fine too if you like the little note section in your phone. I personally like a notebook because my fingers are so fat for those keyboards. But you carry a notebook or your phone, put it in your notes. And for 1 week only, that's it. Even if you only do it for a day, you're going to get so much insight. It's really good if you do it for a week. Write down every single phrase that sounds like scarcity that you have been using. Every single phrase. And when you begin to do this, you become aware of how many things that you're saying. Here's the key, though. This is really, really important. What happens is when we begin to become aware of something, I use things like this and a metaphor of losing weight. And I am the last person on the planet that wants to do a food journal And yet I know how profoundly powerful they are. Now that we have all these apps, it is so much easier to do a food journal than it used to be back in the day when I had to write everything down. So here is the thing. Write it down and don't judge it. When you're doing a food diary, you're just writing the food down. And you may look at it and go, wow, I ate 15 Oreos. Probably not a good idea. You're going to have conversations like that come up, but don't judge it. Don't judge it. Just capture it. Just become aware of it. Because later, you're going to flip it. You're going to write a new version that feels possible, expansive, and true. The very first thing in making any shift or any change in your life is awareness. To become aware and then begin the process of change or transformation. So let's say that I'm always broke or I've been broke my whole life. When you flip this script, I'm learning to create sustainable wealth. Do you see the difference between I am sustainable wealth? Your brain says, no, you're lying because you've said I'm broke so many times in your life that now you're just creating this bridge to I'm learning to create sustainable wealth. Here's what's interesting is when you put that order into the universe, all the tools that you need to learn to create sustainable wealth start showing up. It's amazing. I can't afford that. A very common thing that I hear all the time in my courses. And the thing is that is a lack poverty mentality, consciousness. So here's the thing. Here's another flip. And I want you to do this with your own. These are the examples. I'm choosing to direct my resources differently right now. In other words, if I want it, I can have it. What you're telling yourself is I can, and I am choosing to direct my resources differently right now. Because what you're not doing is depriving yourself. When you say I can't afford something, that's a lack thought. That is a restrictive, resistant thought. And all it does is set you up for wanting something that you feel like you can't have, and that crimps the flow again. This never works for me. That is such a common statement. And when you say things like that, once again, it is a self fulfilling prophecy because the universe says, yes, you're right. So you change that or flip it to, I'm open to seeing this in a new way. How empowering is that? I'm open to seeing this in a new way. In other words, that never works for me. That was one of those ideas that I have had in the past. And now I'm open to seeing this in a new way. Because every one of these flips, I encourage you to get the book and read this in chapter 8. And yet, if you just practice this on your own, every flip is a new seed, a new idea, a new order to this cosmic bartender. It's absolutely fascinating how that one little shift is going to begin to create so many things, a new frequency, a new order. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for you. So, here's how I started living this work myself personally. In the morning, I speak one of my prosperity truths out loud. One of the things that I think gets lost with people is the idea that speaking your word out loud rather than letting it run around in your AI brain up here is so powerful. This is not some pie in the sky BS that my body doesn't believe because I want to be sure that I'm creating this bridge. So say something like this is what I said because I could feel it. And some days when I was sick, it was just, I'm open to receiving. I am open to receiving. You see the difference between I'm open to receiving and I am receiving? Because I am receiving indicates that you are, and your brain does not believe it sometimes at this point. You have to create that bridge. I'm open to receiving. That's it. That was enough. That was enough for those days when I literally could not even get out of bed. And if I caught myself in a spiral during the middle of the day with things like, I can't afford it, my food stamps were this much and my desire to buy this much food with generic peanut butter, for instance, I'd flip it right there in the aisle. Really, 100% in the aisle, out loud. I'm making conscious choices about my resources. Yes, even in Whole Foods, the whole paycheck place. Here's the thing is, when you start making these declarations that are affirmative and empowering, you take back all the power in making those decisions. So I'm making conscious choices about my resources doesn't say I can't afford it. It says that I'm making the decisions. And literally, if I wanted that peanut butter and nothing else, I could have had it. It isn't about not affording. It's about making conscious choices, just like we do in every area of our life. And at night, I'd look at my notebook, I'd reflect, and I would celebrate. I would celebrate all of the shifts and the flips that I had made in the languaging that had kept me stuck, that had kept me in that poverty mindset or that lack mentality. And then you adjust. And it's just like learning a new language. Literally, it's like learning a new language, which it is. It's the language of wealth. It's the language of prosperity. It's the language of abundance. And yeah, at first it was awkward. I'm all the things that I've ever learned in my life in the beginning, they're awkward. Have you ever noticed that when you're learning something? Anything, learning to walk, ride a bike, figure out the computer, Facebook, all the portals that I have to go on to. There is a learning time, but over time, you start dreaming in abundance. You start having that be your default place. You automatically make abundance statements and declarations and putting those orders into the universe rather than all of the things that you don't want. So here's what I want you to walk away with today. You don't need to learn how to talk to the universe. You already are. You already are every single day with every thought, every word, and every action. You are already talking to the universe. So if you are, and you're putting your order in every day with every sentence, with every offhand comment, every just kidding joke, the question I ask you is, what are you ordering? What are you ordering? What are you seeing? Because that's what you're ordering. You can't be saying, I'm broke, and expecting wealth to show up. It's kind of like ordering fish and being mad when there's no steak on the plate, right? We cannot say things like, I'm broke, and then wonder why we aren't a billionaire because your language doesn't match. So begin to look at this. Every order that you're putting in there is coming directly from you, and it's time to take radical responsibility for your language. There is no other way. You don't have to say things you don't believe. I've said that a couple of times throughout this podcast. You don't have to say things you don't believe. You just need to start moving in the direction of what you want to believe, what you desire. Who are you being? Start creating space for that vision that you have for your life to land. How are you being the person that you say you want that life to live? It's so important that you be that person before it shows up in form. And just to sum this up and bring it to a nice little tied up bow, the universe is always listening. Always, always, always. And here's your challenge this week. Speak like your abundance depends on it, because it does. Watch your mouth and the words that come out of it. Choose your words with intentionality. Be very measured in what you say. Slow down enough to pay attention, to be conscious, to be aware. Craft your declarations with intention and potentiality. The universe doesn't respond to what you wish. This is why it's so important. People are wishing for so many things. The universe doesn't respond to what you wish. It responds to what you say and what you think and what you feel and how you act. And it is when you mean that, when you say it with conviction and you feel it with conviction, nothing is out of your reach. And you want to know the most magical part? Once your words line up with your vision, it starts to manifest. This word manifest just means you see it in form. It's not doing anything, it's not coming. The law of attraction isn't about something coming to you, it's about you creating an energy frequency around you, through you, being you, that then shows up. You see the form of it. The universe shifts, it literally rearranges its entire energy force infinitely so that opportunities appear right before your very eyes. People show up. Money flows in from places you never, ever expected. Not ever, usually, in the way you expect, because what's cool about the universe is that it is infinite and it has way better ways and much more ability to manage what's happening in the entire universe, not just this planet, to create what it is in response to the orders that you've placed. What are you placing? What orders are you placing? Are you placing, you think an order for a lemonade and you're getting a Long Island iced tea? Look at what you're thinking. Look at the world around you. And if you want a second helping of what you see, keep doing what you've always been doing. If you want a different meal, a different order, just ask for it. Ask for what you want, because the cosmic kitchen is always open 24/7. It never takes a holiday. It delivers, right? You don't need Uber Eats, it delivers. I am so blessed to have been on this journey for so long, to really see that the truth of this in practice is the absolute truth. There is no other. And now it's been supported by science and spirituality and all these wonderful things. I want you to know that it delivers. This cosmic kitchen, this magical bartender called the universe, is always delivering exactly what you're asking for, what you're feeling, what you're believing. So if this resonated with you, I'd love for you to visit chapter 8 of my book, Your Inner Billionaire. Start your own prosperity phrase flip challenge. Share it on social media. Tag me at Debbie Dobbins on Facebook or on Instagram. And remember, this revolution we're leading about radical responsibility, it starts with your words. It starts with you. You have the power to change the world, literally, with your voice, with your words, with your thoughts, with your feelings, and with your actions. So until next time, speak magic, be bold, and take responsibility for what you're calling in. I love you all so much. Get the book and check out the Divine Wealth Activator at divinewealthactivator.com. Until next time.